Living in Boulder, Colorado has been sought after for many years, but the egregious cost of the city has kept many people away. But that doesn't mean you have to give up on this part of Colorado. There's a few towns that are actually better than Boulder and only about 10 to 20 minutes from the center of the city. But of these three, which one will be your favorite? They're not all the same, so let's dive in. So the towns of focus today are Louisville, Lafayette, and Erie. All three are on the southeastern and eastern sides of Boulder County, which make them excellent commuter towns if you're working in Boulder, but also Denver. However, some might be better placed. Starting with Louisville, this is by far the closest town to Boulder. It's only about a 15-minute drive into the center of the city, and even closer to South Boulder. So if you're coming into the area for work in the city, Louisville can be an excellent town to call home. Heading into Denver, well, it's not terrible. However, it is one of the farther Denver suburbs, so it'll be around a half an hour drive minimum, excluding any traffic, to the center of the city. One thing to note though is that all three of these commuter towns, although in different locations in Boulder County, all generally have the same commute time into Denver. They just take different routes. But you'll most likely from Louisville take Highway 36 that runs down from Boulder, crosses through the town, and then meets I-25 just north of Denver. Now next is Lafayette. This one is right next door to Louisville, just to the east. And so it can be another excellent option for you if you're looking at getting into Boulder. It's a bit farther out, but still only about a 20-minute drive into the city. It's still a good commuter town, but we're starting to get just a little bit farther from Boulder. So you'll experience that this town, compared to Louisville, is a bit more standalone, especially with how built up it is. Driving into Denver, like I just mentioned, is going to be around 30 minutes, but you'll more likely than not be taking Highway 287 most of the time, as it heads directly south from Lafayette into Broomfield and then joins in at Highway 36 down into Denver. Not a bad commute, although I will say 287 has a ton of traffic lights, so the initial part of your commute is going to be stop and go, unless you're fortunate enough that you can catch green lights the entire way down. I have not been so lucky. And then finally there's Erie. This is more or less a newer town, although some locals might disagree. That's the farthest one on the eastern side of Boulder County, so much so that half the town is actually in a whole different county. So I'm going to ignore that for this video and sneak the rest of Erie into Boulder County. It's about a 20 to 25 minute drive into Boulder, depending on where you are in the town. And as you can see, the Flatirons, which signify Boulder, are quite a ways off. So that feeling of being a standalone town in Lafayette, it's even more apparent in Erie. You are going to start feeling far away from Boulder, even though it's still just a 25-minute drive. But Erie can be a great option if you're looking for some distance from your work or the city life, but still have access to it when you need. If you're heading into Denver, you're most likely going to be taking 287 if you live on the west side of Erie, just like in Lafayette. Or if you're on the eastern side, you'll be taking I-25, which is the main highway that runs south down into Denver. Now, with that being said, perhaps having a bit of distance from Denver is what you're looking for, or perhaps not. But regardless, if you've been thinking about a move into Colorado, reach out to me. I speak with people like you every week who are planning a move to the state and are doing as much research as possible before they take those first steps. If this sounds like you, my information is pinned below. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have and help you start the process of moving out here. I look forward to hearing from you. But for now, let's get back into the video. So we figured out a bit more on where these towns are located relative to Boulder. Now let's address the cost, because there's a huge difference. Can you guess the town with the most expensive properties? Probably the one closest to Boulder. And you'd be right. Louisville's median price point for a single family home is around $950,000. The next one is Lafayette at $815,000, followed by Erie at $775,000. Okay, so definitely some expensive suburbs relative to the overall price for the greater Denver area. But that's only one piece of the equation here. What about the size? In a perfect world, you'd expect, well, the more expensive the home, the larger the size, right? And generally, comparing properties within a suburb itself, you'd be right. But it's actually inverted here. So the median size of properties in Louisville are around 2,450 square feet. Lafayette, around 2,500 square feet. And finally, in Erie, it's a whopping 30 3,500 square feet. Erie has been well known for providing some of the largest homes in Boulder County, at least if you're talking best price per square foot. You can definitely find much larger homes in the luxury neighborhoods of Boulder County, but for all intents and purposes, we're not including those because the price points are $2 million plus. And so one of the reasons for Erie having such a great price per square foot is that it has a lot of new construction, significantly more compared to Lafayette and Louisville. And the properties being built here are just generally much larger, which is something I also want to highlight here, and that's age. If you're looking at newer homes, or perhaps older homes specifically, there's a huge discrepancy here. In Louisville, the median year for properties built is 1991, with a large percentage being built in the 80s, 90s, and then some more in the 10s. In Lafayette, the median year built here is 1992, with similar distributions in the 80s, 90s, and 10s, and generally a larger number of homes built. But then we get Erie, with the median year built of 2007, with a vast majority of the properties having been built in the 2000s and 10s. I have a few other videos covering Erie where you can blatantly see the difference between Old Town Erie and then all the new construction neighborhoods in the area. But the price, size, and age of the homes in the suburbs you're looking at, I think, is something to prioritize. Because if you're wanting to live in Boulder County, you'd like to get your money's worth, right? And now the last item on our list is activities and things to do in each suburb. Because after the right location and right price, you want to make sure that you can actually enjoy living in that suburb too. Well, let's just eliminate one town right off the bat, and that's Erie. It's still under development, I'll argue, enough so that the activities and nightlife scenes here aren't very hot, for lack of a better term. Old Town Erie does have its share of a few restaurants, but what the town offers is still kind of minimal, especially compared to the neighbors. Now, I will say Erie does have future plans to build up the town. So in the coming years, we're hopeful that Erie will establish itself with a much better recreational scene. But if we focus solely on the topic of nightlife and food, Lafayette and Louisville both have a downtown area, which features some wonderful options to enjoy on a summer evening. Louisville here really takes the cake. They're definitely the most established. Lafayette's downtown is honestly quite small. I'd argue it's a little bit similar to Erie's. However, the overall town itself still has a lot to offer compared to Erie. That's why I'm including it. But downtown Louisville is a very popular spot to go and grab a bite to eat or meet a few friends for some drinks. It's much more active, especially in the spring and summer. And now let's talk outdoor activities. Because, well, we're in Boulder County, and that's what attracts a ton of people. I'd say that Lafayette and Erie do provide their residents with outdoor opportunities. However, it's not as much as it could be. Lafayette is pretty well built up, so we're kind of working with what we have. But Erie still has a ton of new development and future plans in the works, so there's still a possibility Erie can construct some outdoor locations for its residents. However, to give Erie its due, you do have the Colorado National Golf Club, which is a beautiful course that oversees the Front Range to the west. We have the Erie Single Track, which is a great place to take your mountain bike, and then a section of the Coal Creek Trail, which is a huge trail that runs all the way through these three towns and farther west into Superior. These are terrific spots to go and enjoy the beautiful weather in Colorado. Honestly great once spring comes. In Lafayette, we have Indian Peaks Golf Course, which is an absolutely breathtaking course. The Waneka Lake Park, which offers a terrific spot for a summer picnic, morning walk, or round of disc golf. Or pick up on this town section of the Coal Creek Trail and head west for some more beautiful views of the mountains. But I'll argue that Louisville has the best parks and recreation because not only does it feature a few more open areas and locations to go and enjoy, but it's also the closest to Boulder and unincorporated Boulder County, which means you are surrounded by wide open areas that have a ton of different trails to go and explore. And being so close to Boulder, it makes the drive into the city for some more hiking even easier. You're only about 10 minutes from the NCAR facility and Mesa Trailhead, which is a personal favorite of mine, where you can take on Bear Peak and climb to some incredible views of the county below. The entire Front Range is practically at your fingertips. Now let's just try to justify that $950,000 price. So it's clear that each suburb does have its own benefits, but also some serious cons too. Did you have a favorite? Let me know what stood out to you, good and bad. If any piqued your interest, I'll invite you to check out a few more videos I have on each suburb. You might be surprised at what you find. This is Life on the Front Range. I'll see you there.